Do you guys remember Cole Cassels? I remember Cole Cassels. He was drafted in 2013. He was drafted in that draft of Canucks players that was deemed to be the next generation of future Canucks stars. This was the last Mike Gillis draft. And this was the elusive draft, where we actually drafted probably the very first step in the Vancouver Canucks rebuild, the player that low-key started the whole movement of the Canucks going towards youth. And in 2013, we traded ourselves Corey Schneider for the 9th overall selection in the NHL draft, which turned out to be Bo Horvat. Also in this draft, we took other players too that were highly touted as future Canucks players, and future Canucks regulars, mind you. Players like Hunter Shinkaruk, 24th overall, players like Jordan Subban, who went in the 4th round. And among those names, we got ourselves Cole Cassels. And Cassels, taken in the 3rd round by the Vancouver Canucks, went on to becoming one of the better Canucks prospects in terms of what we perceived at the time. At the time, after his draft year, he was an absolute beast with the Oshawa Generals. In his last OHL season, which was in 2015, this was the season where he had the A on his sweater, he got himself 81 points in 54 Oshawa Generals games, but the really important stat here was the fact that he got 31 points in 21 playoff games. And if you remember the 2015 OHL championships, Cole Cassels was an absolute beast. The only player that had more points than Cole Cassels in the OHL postseason was Connor McDavid of the Erie Otters. And Cole Cassels was primarily labeled as the kryptonite. And that was the label that a lot of people were using. They were using the term kryptonite, the McDavid kryptonite, because this was 2015. This was when Connor McDavid was getting drafted. This was his peak hype year. This is when everybody was talking about Eichel, McDavid, Marner, Strome. This was that year. And in that year, Cole Cassels was the reason that the Erie Otters, Connor McDavid, Remy L, Nicolas Baptiste, Dylan Strome, Cole Cassels was the reason that their ace was shut down. He was the kryptonite for McDavid. It was a 1v1, center versus center matchup the entirety of the series, and Cole Cassels ultimately came away with the victory. He shut down McDavid offensively, he was able to prevent the Erie Otters from winning, and the Oshawa Generals actually won. So, Cole Cassels, we got this prospect, he shut down McDavid at the OHL level, okay. He was able to outsmart, outwit, outbattle a 17 turning 18-year-old Connor McDavid, okay. What's next for Cole Cassels? Well, what's next for Cole Cassels turned out to be the AHL. And in his first AHL season with the Utica Comets, he was bad. 67 games played. How many points? 7. That was horrible. A -17. His second season, okay, well, his first season, that might have just been a transitioning period. What's he at now in his second season? Okay, he played 66 games in his second season, 2016-17 with the Utica Comets once again. How many points did he get in this one? He got himself 11. 11 points, 66 games. That's a point every 6 games. Yo, that's not good, man. What the hell? And if you look at his numbers this year, he's at 15 points. Okay, how many games? Well, he's at 36 games played, which, if you take a look at it, that's under half a point per game, which, you know, doesn't really seem that good. But take a look at the game log, because Cole Cassels has really been put into a good role here with the Comets, and Canucks Army made such a good article talking about Cole Cassels that they published on their website a few days ago. I'm going to link it down below in the description. And in this article, they talk about his story, of course, how he dominated the OHL against Connor McDavid and whatnot, and just how much he has struggled at the professional game. How injuries and other things have really hindered his development amongst the Utica Comets organization. 5 goals, 11 points, 66 games last season. Of course, a lot of people are looking at that and saying, okay, this guy, who was formerly regarded by most to be a top 6 player, doesn't really look like he's going to be anything anymore, which, Sucks. It just sucks. Sure, you can't expect NHL players to come out of the third round every year, but this guy had promise. He was the McDavid kryptonite. So what happened to him? Well, I'll tell you what happened to him. And it's detailed here in this Canucks Army article as well. The Comets really weren't put in a good position. They got sustained injuries to guys like Archibald, Molino, LeBate, Alexis Dowse, Wasey Hamilton. These are all important Utica Comets names. Even guys like Megna and Carter Banks got injured too. And if you want to take a look at these names, okay, who else do they got on the team? Well, they got themselves Reed Boucher, Goldolbin, Chaput, right? But, well, not really. They're playing with the Canucks. The Canucks are being plagued with injuries as well, alongside of the Utica Comets. So, what we got here is a farm team that's getting injured, and a main Canucks team that's getting injured, so they're taking even more players from the farm team. So where does that leave players who are playing in the bottom 6 like Cole Cassels? What happens to 11 points in 66 games Cole Cassels' fourth-line center once his teammates get injured? Well, he gets a promotion, and he moves up to the first line alongside of Michael Carson and an eventually returning Darren Archibald. This was the Comets' first line. Of course, their first line used to be Goldolbin, Boucher, and Chaput, but we all know where those guys ended up. So, the Utica Comets fans, they're just going to have to bear with Cole Cassels, who is only 1 point in 11 games. He's going to be their first line center. Okay, what's going on with him? Well, in his first 18 games of the season, Cole Cassels, playing down there on the fourth line, he only got himself 1 assist. That's his only point. 1 assist. But come December, and come the injuries, and the Vancouver injuries, and the Vancouver call-ups from Utica, Cole Cassels has really worked his way up. In his last 18 games, spanning back to December 13, Cole Cassels has gotten himself 14 points in 18 games, 4 goals and 10 assists. And that's where all of his 4 goals on this season come from. 36 games played in total, 15 points, 4 goals, 11 assists, with 14 of those 15 points coming in the last 18 games. This is the Cole Cassels that we wanted to see when he shut down Connor McDavid over there in the OHL back in McDavid's draft year. This is the Cassels that we wanted, and this is the Cassels that we expected, and he's finally being given his opportunity here. Because of this unfortunate stream of unfortunate, albeit low-key fortunate injuries for both the Canucks and the Comets, Utica has finally been able to utilize Cole Cassels in that role that he was over there in the Oshawa Generals system. So what does that mean for us here? Well, Cole Cassels, drafted 2013. What year is it now? It's 2018. He's turning 23 this year, so the clock, it's sort of ticking. However, he's progressing upwards, guys, and because of the fact that he had those 2 previous bad seasons with the Comets, he is technically, legitimately speaking, just a few steps back. But he's finally been given that opportunity to show that he is a player who deserves to play professionally. So, whether or not he becomes a good prospect, I don't know. Whether or not he does become a good prospect, it can never be said that he hasn't been given an effort, and he wasn't put in a position where he could become that guy. Because, of course, he's not ready for the NHL. Of course. So, the best thing to do here is to play him in Utica. Play him on that first line where he's proving that he low-key belongs. Because ever since being promoted to that first line, he's almost a point per game. And if you look at the point productions for everybody, you know who's just 3 points ahead of Cole Cassels? Hunter Shinkaruk. Hunter Shinkaruk has 18 points in the AHL this season. That's 3 less than Cole Cassels. And Hunter Shinkaruk, he was basically supposed to be the Brock Besser before Brock Besser was Brock Besser. This is actually from a Reddit post here on our Canucks, posted by Gavalanche20. He was the one who noted this change here, and he's kind of right. The fact that we put this much trust into Shinkaruk back when Shinkaruk was drafted, and the fact that Cole Cassels is now living up to those expectations, he's meeting the expectations, and he's meeting Hunter Shinkaruk, Cole Cassels is genuinely trending upwards, guys. And it's all because he's been given an opportunity to succeed. This is his break, and now it is up to him to use this and solidify himself as a player who is progressing upwards towards the Vancouver Canucks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video for Plus, and gaming, and bye.